Have you ever smiled in front of people, but cried alone at night? Have you ever made dua again and again, wondering, Ya Allah, do you see me? Do you hear me? Sometimes the pain is so deep, so personal, that you can't even explain it to another human being. But here is the comfort your heart needs today. You are never unseen, you are never unheard, and you are never forgotten. Patience, sabr, is not simply the ability to wait while time passes. It is an active, living form of worship that settles deep within the heart of a believer. When a person chooses patience, they are not being passive or weak. They are consciously deciding to place their trust in Allah over their emotions, fears, and impulses. Sabr is worship because it requires intention, self-restraint, and faith all at once. It is choosing obedience when the nafs wants to complain, choosing hope when despair feels closer, and choosing silence for the sake of Allah when the heart is screaming with questions. Every moment of patience is a moment of submission, a quiet declaration that Allah knows best, even when the situation feels unbearable. Patience becomes worship because it is practiced when no one else is watching. Anyone can be patient when life is easy, but true sabr is revealed in moments of loss, injustice, sickness, loneliness, and unanswered dua. It is holding back the tongue from words of anger, holding back the heart from resentment, and holding back actions that would displease Allah. In these moments, sabr transforms pain into reward. What others may see as suffering, Allah sees as devotion. What feels like weakness to the world is strength in the sight of Allah, because patience requires immense spiritual discipline and reliance upon Him alone. Sabr is also worship because it aligns the heart with divine wisdom. When a believer practices patience, they acknowledge that Allah's timing is perfect, even if it conflicts with their own desires. They accept that trials are not meaningless punishments, but carefully measured tests designed to purify the soul, elevate ranks, and draw the servant closer to their Creator. Through patience, faith matures, humility deepens, and the heart learns to depend on Allah rather than the certainty of outcomes, the reassurance of people, or the comfort of immediate relief, allowing sabr to become a continuous act of worship carried through every breath, every delay, every unanswered prayer, and every quiet moment where the believer chooses trust over doubt. Allah is fully aware of the pain that remains unspoken, the grief that is hidden behind calm faces, and the struggles that never find words. There are wounds that a person learns to carry quietly, not because they are small, but because explaining them feels exhausting or impossible. A believer may sit among people, smile, fulfill responsibilities, and appear strong, while inside the heart is weighed down by sorrow only Allah can truly comprehend. This silent pain does not go unnoticed. Allah knows the heaviness of the chest, the late nights filled with overthinking, the moments when the heart feels overwhelmed but the lips remain still. Even when a person cannot articulate their pain in dua, Allah understands it more clearly than the person experiencing it. Allah's knowledge is not limited to what is spoken aloud. He knows the pain before it reaches the tongue, before the tears fall, before the heart even understands what it is feeling. The quiet sighs, the deep breaths taken to stay composed, the suppressed tears that never escape the eyes, all of it is known to Him. When a believer feels that no one else would understand their struggle, Allah is already aware of its depth and its impact. This awareness is not distant or detached. It is accompanied by mercy, compassion, and wisdom. Allah does not overlook silent pain, nor does He consider it insignificant simply because it is hidden from the world. In moments of quiet suffering, Allah's closeness becomes most meaningful. He listens when there are no words, responds when there are no clear requests, and comforts when there is no human reassurance available. Silent pain often draws a believer closer to Allah, teaching the heart to rely on Him alone for understanding and relief. It strengthens the bond between the servant and the Creator, because the believer realizes that even in the absence of expression, Allah remains attentive, aware, and deeply involved in every struggle, every ache, and every burden carried in silence. Delayed relief is often misunderstood as denial, especially when the heart is tired and the struggle feels endless. A believer may make dua repeatedly, waiting days, months, or even years, and begin to wonder why nothing seems to change. In those moments, it is easy to feel forgotten or overlooked, yet delay does not mean rejection. Allah's wisdom operates beyond human urgency, and what feels late to the servant is perfectly timed by the Creator. Relief that is delayed is often relief that is being shaped, protected, or redirected in ways the believer cannot yet perceive. Allah never withholds out of neglect. He withholds out of knowledge, mercy, and care for what lies ahead. When relief is delayed, Allah may be strengthening the heart to carry what is coming. Immediate ease might weaken reliance on Him, while waiting teaches trust, humility, and perseverance. Through delay, faith is refined, intentions are purified, and the believer learns to turn to Allah not only for outcomes, but for comfort itself. Sometimes the delay removes harm that would have accompanied an early answer, or it allows circumstances to align so that the relief arrives without regret or loss. What appears to be silence is often divine preparation unfolding quietly, layer by layer, beyond what the human eye can see. Delayed relief also shifts the believer's understanding of success. Instead of measuring Allah's response by speed, the heart begins to recognize that being held, guided, and sustained during hardship is itself a form of mercy. The delay invites deeper reflection, sincere repentance, and a stronger connection with Allah that might never have developed had the answer arrived immediately. In this way, delay becomes a gift disguised as waiting, teaching the believer that Allah's care is not proven by haste, but by precision, and that every moment of patience is being carefully counted, valued, and rewarded according to divine wisdom. Hardship is a sign of divine care, not abandonment. Expand it into 300 words and make it lengthy paragraphs, and do not add any ending sentence. Hardship is often mistaken as a sign that Allah has turned away, yet in reality, it can be one of the clearest indications of divine care. When difficulty enters a believer's life, the heart may immediately question why, forgetting that ease is not the only form of mercy. Allah tests those He loves, not to break them, but to draw them closer to Him. Hardship strips away false reliance and exposes what the heart truly depends on. It removes distractions, humbles the soul, and redirects attention toward Allah in ways comfort never could. Through trials, Allah invites the believer into a deeper relationship built on sincerity rather than convenience. Divine care is not always gentle. Sometimes it is firm, corrective, and challenging. Just as a parent may allow discomfort to protect a child from greater harm, Allah allows hardship to prevent spiritual loss, arrogance, or heedlessness. A trial may close doors that would have led to harm or delay paths that were not meant to be taken. In those moments, the believer may feel alone, yet Allah is actively guiding, guarding, and nurturing their faith. Hardship becomes a means of purification, erasing sins and elevating ranks, transforming pain into long-term spiritual benefit that far outweighs the temporary struggle. When Allah places a believer in hardship, He does not leave them without support. He provides patience, moments of clarity, unexpected strength, and subtle signs of His presence. The heart learns resilience, gratitude deepens, and faith becomes rooted beyond circumstances. Hardship teaches the believer that Allah's closeness is not measured by ease, but by how present He is in moments of difficulty. What feels like abandonment is often Allah's way of pulling the believer away from the illusion of self-sufficiency and toward complete reliance on Him, reshaping the heart through experience, reflection, and trust in divine wisdom. Allah hears du'as even when words fail, even when the heart is too heavy to form proper sentences, or the mind is too overwhelmed to know what to ask for. There are moments when pain becomes so deep that speech feels inadequate, when a believer sits in silence, unable to explain their need, yet feeling it intensely. In those moments, Allah does not require eloquence or clarity. He understands the intention behind the silence, the yearning within the heart, and the unspoken hopes buried beneath exhaustion and fear. A tear that falls without a word, a sigh released in the depths of the night, or a heart turned toward Him in desperation is already a form of dua known and accepted by Allah. Allah's ability to hear is not limited to sound or language. He hears the whispers of the soul, the confusion of the heart, and the du'as that remain trapped within. When a believer cannot find the strength to speak, Allah listens to what the heart is enduring. Even broken thoughts, repeated emotions, and silent pleas are received with complete awareness. This understanding brings comfort, because it reminds the believer that they are never required to be strong or articulate in order to be heard by their Lord. Allah does not wait for perfect words. He responds to sincere reliance and vulnerability. In moments when words fail, dua becomes an act of presence rather than speech. Sitting in Allah's presence, turning toward Him with trust, and allowing the heart to be open is itself a powerful form of worship. Allah responds in ways that bring peace, strength, or gradual relief, even if the believer does not immediately recognize it. Through these silent du'as, the connection between the servant and Allah deepens, teaching the heart that being heard is not dependent on expression, but on sincerity, and that Allah remains attentive to every unspoken prayer carried within the depths of the soul, ready whenever you are. Send the next keynote, or tell me how you'd like this shaped next, expanded, refined, or woven into a full speech or script flow. Every tear and every struggle is accounted for, even the ones that fall in moments of complete solitude. There are pains that never reach the ears of people, battles that are fought quietly within the heart, and nights where tears are wiped away before anyone can notice. A believer may feel that these moments pass unnoticed, but in reality, not a single tear is lost or ignored by Allah. Each tear carries a weight, a story, and a sincerity that is fully known to Him. What feels like an ordinary moment of sadness to the world is preserved with honor in the sight of Allah, recorded with precision and care beyond human comprehension. Allah's justice and mercy ensure that no struggle is wasted, regardless of how small or insignificant it may seem. The effort it takes to remain patient, to continue praying, to restrain anger, or to endure emotional pain is fully recognized. Even the internal struggles that leave no visible trace are valued by Allah. The believer may not see immediate results or recognition, but Allah's accounting is not limited to outcomes. It includes intention, endurance, and sincerity. What appears as loss or delay in this world becomes reward, elevation, and compensation in ways that the believer may only understand later. This awareness transforms suffering into meaning. When a believer understands that every tear is seen and every hardship is measured, the heart finds reassurance in continuing forward despite the weight of difficulty. Struggle becomes a form of devotion, and pain becomes a means of drawing closer to Allah. The believer is reminded that Allah is never unaware of what His servants endure, and that every moment of hardship carries divine acknowledgement, divine care, and a promise of justice that ensures nothing endured for His sake will ever go unrecorded. In all of this, the heart is gently reminded of a powerful truth. Nothing you are going through is random, unnoticed, or meaningless. Patience is worship, silent pain is known, delayed relief is purposeful, hardship is care, unspoken du'as are heard, and every tear is recorded. Together they form a complete picture of a Lord who is not distant, but deeply involved in every detail of His servant's life. When the world fails to understand your struggle, Allah already knows it in its entirety. When answers seem slow, Allah is working with perfect wisdom. When the burden feels heavy, Allah is shaping strength within you that you may not yet recognize. So let the heart find rest in trusting Him. Continue to turn back to Allah even when tired, even when confused, even when the road feels long. Faith is not proven in moments of ease, but in moments when the believer chooses to rely on Allah despite uncertainty. Every step taken with patience, every tear shed with sincerity, and every dua made with hope brings the believer closer to divine mercy. Nothing endured for the sake of Allah is ever wasted, and nothing carried with trust goes unrewarded. In placing your pain in Allah's hands, you are not losing anything. You are gaining closeness, strength, and a promise that what lies ahead is far greater than what you are enduring now.